Hello, my name is Michael Garrick, and this is PoppinCulture. My guest today is comedian Evan Pittfield. He's also a musician, guitarist, and computer programmer. Thank you so much for coming on to the podcast.
Hey, man, thanks for having me. Mr. Garrick. How's it going?
Good. Whenever I have a comedian, I like to start off asking a question. A lot of people focus on bombing, but I'm more focused on succeeding. So when was the first time you killed, and how did it feel?
I'll have to actually get back to you on that. I'm still waiting for that day to come. I'm still working up to it. But the first time that I did more well than I should have was probably like a few years ago. It was at the Charlotte Comedy Zone, which there's always some people there, so that helps out a lot because doing comedy to no one is kind of difficult. But it felt really good because like the decision that I made in my head that was different that night versus the previous performances that were not going well was that I was like, that like weird voice you have in your head that like you're kind of afraid to share with anyone else. You're like, that's funny maybe just to me, but it's a little messed up. I had actually decided to kind of let that voice take over that night and just say what I wanted to do instead of like doing what I thought you should do. And so I kind of left feeling like, okay, I did good, but like I'm more interested into like why, like what happened, why all of a sudden did something like this feel different and go differently, and then like what really connected. And people like in the scene who would never show me attention, like they all of a sudden sort of like, man, that was good, and I'm like, yeah, I wish I knew why, And so I think that's why. It's because I just did my thing and I ignored the unnecessary artificial anxiety that we all deal with, So it is a good feeling, and it's something that I've kind of made like the bar to chase after going forward. So,
okay. Has anything compared to that feeling?
How inappropriate are we allowed to get on the on the podcast? Is this a PG?
No, you can talk as much as you want. Just let you know, sex has won over everything else.
Okay. Like, when a man orgasms, no. So I think it's a unique feeling. I don't think that it's unique to comedy. I think it's that feeling where most people, whatever they do, maybe they do music, or maybe they're like a chef, or maybe they're a lawyer or whatever. It's that moment where everything that you wanted to work out actually does. It's the like a lot of people I know are like perfectionists, and they put their whole brain and their whole life into what they do, and often the output they get doesn't match that, right? It's just kind of like, yeah, this cupcake is good or whatever, and you're like, dude, I spent 3 days on that cupcake. But like it's just that moment where everything really matches, everything lines up, like your expectations and the reality match up for better, not for worse, right? And I don't think it's unique to comedy. I think when anyone experiences that feeling, it's amazing. I think the unique part that does pertain to comedy is that comedy is a solo thing, right? So it's not like good job team for this excellent product. It's like good job Michael for this excellent thing, and it's immediate, right? Because you're getting it on stage. Oh, yeah. So you feel, because you're also fully responsible for bombing, so you feel 100% hate. But this is like all you when it works. You feel like Michael Jordan basically when it works out, and it's like, wow, this is it's very much compared to a drug experience where you just keep wanting more and you want the prices to get cheaper,
Exactly. You brought it up, so I would love for you to explain to the audience what's it feel like when you write a joke, it's going to kill, you go to the open mic to try it out, and it doesn't.
It's like half rage and half confusion, right? Because the thing is, like, I think we try to pretend that we're as humble as we can be and we have no ego. And I think we all know that's total bullshit, right? So, of course, part of your ego is, like, you have to have an ego, even if you have it under control. You have to have an ego to get up on stage, right? There has to be some, because there's no reason to, right? There's so many high-paying, functional, stable jobs and career options that matter a lot more than stupid old comedy or music, right? These things are amazing, but in essence, they're optional. So you have to have some type of ego that says, Mike, go do it. And so when a joke doesn't work, half of it's like, nah, well, fuck you guys. But then, like on the car ride home, once your mental boner goes away, you get to actually think about it and be like, actually, I got some work to do. That wasn't good. I need to go fix it. And it becomes actually kind of definitive for your process going forward, because it's not just that one time. It's like, well, it's something that you need to anticipate constantly and learn to kind of deal with. And so that has actually filtered back into my writing process, which is, okay, I look at it as like 50-50, right? 50% of it's my job to like write the joke and make it happen. And then 50% of it is how do they react and not just laugh or no laugh, but how do they react to the words that are coming out of my mouth? Like, do they understand what I'm talking about? Is it relatable? Is it so far-fetched of something that it's impossible for them to laugh? So like, I'm constantly looking for, how can I make my thought, not how can I change my joke, but how can I make my thought more accessible to more people? Because I'm always under the impression that my intent is funny, but maybe the joke is not done yet. So I say to myself, how can I articulate this better so I can actually bring everyone to the place where they're supposed to laugh, and then measure how it worked out? It's almost like, did I really give my joke a fair shot? Or was I such a bad writer and I didn't go far enough that no one should laugh at this because it's genuinely garbage? So it's kind of like it's like my own litmus test, I guess, for something that I create. So I try to stay away from the stiff arm approach where it's like, anything I write is gold, and if you don't like it, go fuck yourself. Like, I've never been that type of person. But yeah, so I'm open to the feedback that you get, and it's our job is, of course, tireless. We have to compile all of that and look at the video and listen to the recording and be like, all right, where do I do this, and how do I change this, and why did people laugh at the way I said that word, and should I do it like that again? And so we're just in the kitchen all the time, like changing things up, trying to figure out how to make it work. But I don't think you expected the answer to be that long, so I apologize.
No, that's totally fine.
What were we talking about again? Gardening? What were we talking about?
No, you explained it on point. That's really how it feels. Like, I feel like I've definitely had to rewrite jokes like over and over and over again, just because I was like, it's something here. It's my job to make sure I get it to the finish line. You chose the topic of death metal and how it's influenced pop culture. I want to start off with this question. Why do people say Ozzy Osbourne is the king of death metal?
I don't know. What's interesting is if you asked Ozzy Osbourne, I think he would also be a little confused. So I think one thing to get important, and I hate to do this because I'm not a fan of like people who have to live by terms in general, but there's so many subgenres. You got like heavy metal, you got death metal, you got like British new wave heavy metal, you got like doom metal. It honestly sounds like I'm making all this stuff up, but no. A quick Wikipedia trip will make you as confused as I am. I believe that at least for the globe, in terms of like who the music reached, I think it was Black Sabbath and maybe like Judas Priest that kind of started like the new wave British heavy metal. And nowadays, I don't think people would put them in like a death or a black metal feel, because there's definitely those bands. But I know that at the time, obviously, even their poppy songs, just because of the genre, were considered very taboo, right? And so, why would Ozzy be the forefather of whatever genre? I think it's because for that type of sound, they just kind of came first. Okay. They're like the Beatles of that genre to most people. And in terms of like, there's obviously millions of bands, but like whose records ended up, in stores first around the world, I think that's probably how that happened.
Okay. And I just want to make sure I said we're talking about heavy metal, but heavy metal has so many genres. Sorry for saying death metal.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I think I said death metal.
Yeah, just metal, yeah.
Just metal. Okay.
No one will be offended.
Okay, yeah,
I identify as heavy metal.
Yeah. Oh, snap. Yeah. But like you say, because I did research for our episode, and I just didn't know. Like, I didn't realize screamo and heavy metal weren't the same thing. I thought they were.
And it's fair. You would it makes sense to not know this, because again, it's just every day. It's like programming languages. Every day there's a new one, and you got to adjust. Or genders, I guess. There's like a new one. You got to figure it out. And so I think definitely what they all have in common is they're loud. Sounds like people are kind of pissed off in terms of like overlap. And one thing that is constantly common is it's always pushing the envelope, and it's always a little bit taboo, and it's definitely less accepted in the mainstream than something like pop music. That's the reason, actually, specifically, I chose this topic as it pertains to comedy, because I think that's where the overlap is for us. Right? Okay. It's a very low art. It's art of the people. It's, we're always in like a dark corner of a bar bothering people. It's not Mariah Carey. It's not, you know what I'm saying? And it's always been this way. And so we're kind of like, doing our fight for what we believe in, which is woven throughout the fabric of metal music, whatever genre it is. So that's why I chose it.
The big thing that shocked me besides screamo was that there's a genre called punk heavy metal.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of punk rock. Like I grew up around that time period.
For sure.
So when I heard punk heavy rock, I was like, yeah, this is it. Like, this is still happy and mad at the same time. Like, this was a great blend.
It gets confusing. Yeah. I hate genres. I really do. It gets very confusing.
Okay.
I really wish music stores had no genre. I really wish they just had alphabetical order, and you just picked up a CD. Well, I say CD, obviously it's like 30 years ago. You pick up an MP3 or whatever, and you don't know. It'd be great if you have no idea what you're going to get into, and you just put the headphones on and listen to it. Kind of the same with comedy, right? Yeah.
I will give, after doing the little research I did, I will have to admit, when it comes to heavy metal, best album covers.
Artwork, you're saying? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
like,
for sure.
Amazing. I'm talking about, I saw like just 20 and I was like, this is different. Like
it'll catch for good or for worse, it'll catch your attention. That's for sure.
Yeah, like whoever did this artwork, they cared about it. Like, this wasn't something that was done last minute.
It's almost like a tattoo artist for a lot of that stuff, right? It's like it's just a lot of colors. It's very, like you're saying, detail oriented. So if that's the type of stuff you like, it's very interesting.
You would know more about this than I do. Why does Venom not get the appreciation they deserve?
I don't know that. I think behind the scenes, like bands in the green room talking to people, like that's definitely one of everyone's influences. I think there's a whole like section of metal that came out in the early 90s that like you would almost think like they all got together and said, let's make sure our recordings sound horrible on purpose. Like I mean, obviously technology has gotten better, but like, so you listen to some of this music, and regardless of if you're a fan or not, you just can't hear what the hell is going on. Like, it just sounds like a bag of shit. There's like, even if you're a large fan of these people, they were bands. A lot of them started in like, I don't know, Sweden or just somewhere in Norway, and it's like they just like, if you saw them live, this was like a life-changing experience. But then if you listen to the CDs, it's just god awful. It's just awful. So I'm assuming maybe that had something to do with it. Maybe people are like, yeah, I don't really understand what the magic is about this, because when I put on my headphones, it just sounds like noise. And that's a very fair comment, I think. Even as a fan, it's like, yeah, I mean, if music is meant to be heard, right? So if you can't hear anything, that's the band's fault, I guess.
Okay. You brought up live performances. I haven't been to a heavy metal band performance, but I've been to see Green Day twice. I've seen Linkin Park twice. I've seen Fall Out Boy once. They put on great crowds, and there's a lot of energy in the crowds. When it comes to heavy metal, is it the same energy, or is it a little bit more?
First off, I want to say I've never seen Green Day, so I'm really jealous.
Oh,
one of my favorites. I love that band.
They got me into rock, like
same,
punk rock. They got me into it.
Green Day Dookie is actually the first CD that I bought with my own money.
Nice.
And I still have it. It somehow still works.
I wish I could say that, but first time I ever bought with my own money was Life Jennings.
Oh, nice.
Good. You know what that is. Cool.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not the coolest kid on the block, but I have some references. Linkin Park, never got to see them, actually. I was pissed. I actually, there was an opportunity to see him in Charlotte.
Yeah, that's what
and I was like, I'll go next year. And then that guy is gone now. So I'm like, wow, I feel like an idiot. Yeah, those first two albums that they had are still like gems in time. There's still no music that sounds like that.
No.
It's so unique. But sorry to trail off. So, what's the concert like? What's the energy like? I think it's actually something that's very commonly misunderstood. I think most people see concert experiences like that as you would see portrayed in a movie, where, you know, people are there like worshiping the devil and killing animals and shit like that, and that's just not really the case. I mean, certainly there's bands that do stuff like that, but most like metal shows, I think there's 3 people who go to those shows. There's like losers like me who are a fan, like just diehard fan of the music, and we're just standing there with our hands in our pockets, just bobbing our head and like, oh, is he gonna play the solo, that difficult solo? Is he gonna get it? Is he gonna nail it like they did on the album? Like, we're literally just listening to the sound, having a good time. Then there's that guy's girlfriend that didn't really want to go to the show, but you know, they love them, so they're there, and they're kind of looking at their phone like, hey, are any of my friends available to come helicopter me out of here? And then the third person is the person who's maybe not as invested in the music, but more invested in the show. And they're the people starting the mosh pits and going crazy, and they drank way more than they should. But that's one of the common misconfusions is, although I guess from the outside you would say a mosh pit is like based on violence, it's actually like there's like a weird family element to it. Like, I've been at shows where people are moshing and whatever, and you know, after the mosh someone will like pick up a guy and be like, hey man, you dropped your wallet. I was like, oh, thanks. So it's like a really weird, like I've always related it to like cats, you know, like tigers and like lions and stuff, like they beat the shit out of each other as a form of play.
Yeah.
Which on the surface makes no sense. You'd be like, that's a really weird way of playing, right? Everyone else plays like together, but like they're friends in the end. And,
Okay.
and it's actually, you know, they're not really like showing all of their claw. Like, they're not out to kill. They're just beating each other up. Which, is it something, you know, we should advertise or pitch? Yeah, arguably not, but that's basically what's going on. But there is like a family element, you know, a bunch of strangers are calling each other brother. You know, it's like, you know that everyone's kind of like, no one ends up at these concerts by accident.
Exactly.
Everyone's kind of there for a common reason, and you just feel it feels like a larger extension of family, which is a similar effect in comedy.
Yeah.
Right.
Definitely.
We get to see like our comedian friends who are like, oh, finally a like-minded individual. I feel safe. You know, I'm not at like Thanksgiving dinner with my parents. I'm with my buddies, you know.
Yeah.
So similar type of thing, I think, at the metal shows.
I will let you know, minus the mosh pits, if you switch the genders in the beginning of your story, same way it feels to go to a John Mayer concert. Same way.
Pretty much.
Yeah, it's like, oh man, I hope you can hit that solo, and then you just, or either that or you can be the boyfriend. Like, why am I here? Like,
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing is like a lot of people I know, like my metalhead friends that we go to concerts with, like the majority of our music listening is done like during work. You know, so we use music to kind of like focus and like block out noise. And so anytime you're listening to any genre of music through headphones, like you're going to just pick up on more details in the mix than if you're just driving, you know, with your radio on or whatever. And so, yeah, a lot of people end up at these concerts and they're looking to hear that one note that they love in the song, you know, and I you know, whatever concert, John Mayer or Metallica, whatever, like I definitely respect those people. I think those people are truly there with the best like financial interest in the band.
Yeah,
They're like,
of course.
we want you to succeed. We want to buy the shirt. We want to be here. I don't mind the mosh pit stuff. I'm very rarely in them. You could just stand outside and not deal with it. There is always one guy. There's always one guy that doesn't get it, and he's literally trying to hurt people. And it's like, we got to get, you know, that's why security's there. But otherwise, it's not really a problem. But I'm typically 100% at the concert for the music.
Were you nervous your first time in the mosh pit?
Yeah, because the other thing is like what was nervous is there's no real way to enter. There's no like, you know, there's like a ladder at the pool or, oh, I'm getting in now. That doesn't really exist in a mosh pit. If you're just close enough, you're in.
Okay.
So it is a bit scary. It's very similar to those old cartoons where like people are in like a fight and it's like a whirlwind just kind of spinning around. It's like, that's basically what that is. So there's no like, okay, I'm entering now. It's just all of a sudden you're being thrown back and forth. And It's fun. I would say mosh pits are way funner if you have short hair. I don't, because very quickly you'll be able to not see anything.
Oh wow, yeah, that's right.
And line of sight, really, in every aspect of life, is pretty useful.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of like driving with a whole. It's like driving in the rain with no windshield wipers. You know, except in the concert, I guess that's sweat instead of rain. But it's a fun. I do encourage people do it at least once in their life. Maybe not if you're like in a wheelchair or something like that, but. I mean, I'd imagine that'd be a difficult experience. Or actually, maybe you would dominate the circle in that case. I think it would be really hard to push a whole vehicle. But no, I think it's a fun experience that you should do at least once. All speculation. I don't know this for a fact. I do know that every venue I've gone to is accessible, so everyone can enjoy the show, which is awesome. You know.
Yeah.
So that's how I know we have messed up brains, right? We're laughing at the wrong thing. But no, I highly suggest people do that. And like, again, it's akin to like if you're at a Green Day show, I know that, or like any type of punk show, they eventually they do something where it's like fists in the air, right? Everyone cheer together. So it's the same type of thing where it's like it's supposed to be a unified thing.
My biggest thing was like every one I've been to, and each time I went, they would always play "No Sleep Till Brooklyn." I didn't know that was like a big punk song until I went to a concert, and then I finally heard the song, and I was like, okay, I see why.
Yeah, it's a good song. That what is that? Beastie Boys originally, I think.
I want to say yes.
Yeah, I had a chance to see Green Day during the American Idiot tour, and I didn't, and I regret it because I like that album a lot. That was during like the emo phase, but I didn't really feel a lot of the emo on that album. So
how old are you?
I am 31.
Okay, yeah, we're close to the same age. I'm 29. So okay, so yeah, we both okay.
I'm just a little bit fatter. That's all.
That's
He's like, you're a lot of bit fatter.
No, you're plus size. That's okay.
Jumbo, sir. I identify as jumbo.
Identify.
Like the eggs.
Yeah. When someone says heavy metal sounds, all of it sounds the same, what's your reply?
I mean, it's hard to say because it depends. It's like, are you saying that for you, or are you saying that as like a statement, right? So if someone's saying that as a statement, well, I mean, I think the variable is music, and you could change that variable with anything, and I still don't think that statement makes any sense. If you mean for you, like your ears, that's fine. That makes sense. Because that means that I think you're looking for something out of music, and you're not getting it when you're listening to metal, whatever the genre is. And so, hey man, it's just like eating. I'm a very big fan of like, hey, if you don't like it, spit it out. Yeah. I mean, our parents taught us the opposite, right? They're like, no, even if it tastes like shit, have manners and eat the food. Yeah. And I've never been a fan. I'm like, nah, this tastes like dog shit. I don't want it. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I don't agree with that at all. I'm just saying if somebody was to say that, that's okay. That's a good reply. I would, yeah. And again, it's all country is the same. It's the same statement. It's like, it's all about some guy in his truck and, domestic violence issues or something. But like I don't think that's true. I think, and I have a joke about this that's not finished, but I think it comes back to the way that our brains have been morphed to work, which is categories, right? It's almost like people know nothing without category. If you like in most exchanges, if you say, hey, you should check this band out. Yeah. Weirdly enough, people need a lot of information. They won't just do it. They're like, oh, well, what kind of music is it? And it's like, well, why do you have to know that? And they're like, well, it's like we want to be prejudiced, and we have to be, otherwise we can't. It's like, well, is it country? Is it rap? And it's like, well, yeah, it's rap. And it's like, I don't really like rap. It's like, yeah, but you've never even heard this song. Like, I just have to tell you rap because that's where they put it in the music store. But like, truthfully, there's a lot going on in here. If you just listen to it, you don't even heard it yet. It's the knock it before you try it problem. So I think saying something this whole thing is not good, this whole genre, I think goes back to just the way that we're programmed, which is our categories. Yes. Because that person probably heard 6 country songs and they were able to like audibly pick out the commonalities, and they just made a decision. I'm not going to invest in any country going forward. Yeah, and it's like, all right, well, have fun. Yes.
Besides, of course, the artists and the musicians in the band and how they've influenced pop culture, how have you seen heavy metal influence TV and movies?
I think I think heavy metal, I think, has influenced many forms of pop culture, including movies and music. And I think at the root of it, the influence is the fact that some of these people have proven over time that although it might seem super dangerous and the risk is high, that it's okay to push the envelope, right? It's okay that we explore some of these things that are taboo or dark or whatever. And then, of course, not everyone succeeds. So that message is also delivered where it's like, yes, it's okay to explore. However, it's still on you to do a good job.
Yeah.
Right. Again, if you're a band that's just killing animals and making noise and, wearing blood all over you and stuff like that, like you will get a fan base. I don't think you're going to make it to the radio, which might not be your goal. But you are allowed to exist, right? We have reached a point as a society where it's okay for certain things to exist. And it's because things, times have changed and things like metal has said, it's okay. But that doesn't mean that everyone is at the same level, or doesn't mean that everything is as good. There's better things, there's worse things. So I think it's allowed people to feel okay exploring darker themes, darker things. There's a lot of like metal music that's centered around depression or anxiety, which are relatable to everybody. I mean, especially nowadays, mental health has become the subject, right?
Yeah.
So I think a lot of people listen to this music, and even though it's taboo to talk about, I think they do find connection with it. And I think that translates to movies as well.
Yeah. Like if it wasn't for Iron Man, I would have never heard of Black Sabbath. They
had a good sound. That's the first one. Was what they had, like AC/DC, Black Sabbath. They had a whole bunch of stuff.
Is AC/DC considered heavy metal?
I think depending on how old you were, maybe.
Okay.
Because they were definitely making a lot of noise. I think most critically probably hard rock.
Okay, cool.
And that it gets weird, right? Hard rock, soft rock. It's like I can't keep up with this, man. You got to draw like a tree. Okay, this means this. This means this. It's confusing, but. Yeah, they were very loud. They were loud and proud. So I don't know if we can call that a genre, but
when it comes to, and we'll very lightly talk about this, when it comes to the Satanism and whatever, worshiping Satan, whatever else, do you believe that's just something that people throw in for record sales, or do you believe like some people do worship the devil? I guess
I think it's a little bit of both. And not necessarily both per band. I'm saying like just across the whole spectrum. I'm sure there's people who do that. This is typically where I lose people because I've never really cared what people believe in. I think they're all equivalently silly. And I grew up Catholic. I grew up in New Jersey. I was a New Jersey Catholic, and religion and Catholicism, they're just one of those things where if you're someone that like questions stuff, you're not really their favorite person.
the same being Jehovah's Witness.
Yeah. And again, it's not that like you are automatically a devil worshiper because you don't believe this, but it's just, if you just want a little bit more information, they're like, whoa, man, you gotta, keep your mouth shut and just follow the rules. And that was just never my thing. So like, I don't like metal bands just because of the satanic whatever, but I do something in me agrees with them in the sense of like, oh, these people also have a giant problem with like arbitrary authority, because there's a lot of questions that no one's ever really been able to answer, a lot of innocent questions. And so I don't necessarily believe some bands truly believe in Satan. I think it is more for a gimmick. I think it is more for art style. I know there are bands that genuinely do, and for me, it's going to sound silly, but I'm just there for the music.
Nice.
And if you're a Christian band and you're a proper person and you do all the right things and your music sucks, I'm just not going to go.
Oh yeah, I think. Do you remember? Have you ever seen the South Park episode about that?
With the like satanic stuff?
No, the Christian bands, but they're just taking love songs and putting Jesus in. It's hilarious.
No. Well, I know, of course, anything they make is really funny. They do a really good job at attacking everyone.
Yeah.
So
like they're across the board. There's no way they can ever be called out because you only like. No, we talk about everybody.
This is true.
I realized, and it may be in other music genres, but I really feel like in heavy metal or just rock in general, do you feel like the musicians can become more famous than the lead singer?
I think it definitely depends on like what the band is going for. I know that there's this thing. I don't think I've coined the term, but there's a thing called lead singer syndrome. Where sometimes the lead singer is so much in their head that like the band eventually breaks up because he or she wants to, be they're thinking a little bit more about fame and fortune than they are the music. I think in order to be more famous or more lucrative as a musician, I think it's very much like pro athlete where you really have to be that good at whatever it is you're doing. Like if you're Adele and if in your vocal range, or like Freddie Mercury, if your vocal range is just amazing, it's really hard to ignore you. Like for some people, maybe that's Chick-fil-A, right? Maybe it's like, yeah, I know they hate gay people, but the chicken is so good. Like the product to them is so good that they can't ignore it. So I think in order to like outclass a lead singer as just someone on the instruments, I think you just have to be so good that people can't ignore it.
Or eat a bat.
Yeah. I think if you are a vocalist though, they're usually called frontman or frontwoman. And I think they have a similar difficulty of responsibility as we do as comedians, where it's like, obviously there's 6 people and there's a lot of stuff going on, but they're the ones sharing the message.
I got you.
So they're going to take most of the blame. Even though I might be playing a chord sequence on the guitar that is purposefully demonic to get an evil sound and to make you feel a certain way, and I should be responsible for this. Yeah, the lyricist or the front man or front woman is the one that's actually spreading the song message. So like they're usually the ones that are ending up in the interviews being asked to explain, hey, can you prove that Satan is nowhere to be found in your song? So I think also they get more famous for the wrong reasons, right? Because like famous could also just mean they're on trial more. Like perfect example is Judas Priest, right? Okay. One of my favorites. There was a trial back in the day where like there were these 2 kids that were listening to their records and they decided to play the records on reverse back when it was turntable vinyl stuff. And they swore that they made some like death pact because they heard the words "do it" in reverse, and they interpreted that as like, hey, kill yourself. Like that was the message that the band was trying to whatever. And these guys, like one of the guys killed themselves, one like with a shotgun, and the other guy did the same but lived, so his face is like all messed up, and they had to like reconstruct it. And they brought Judas Priest to trial, and they had to sit there and say like, are there subliminal messages if you turn the record backwards? And they're just like, no. And like at one point they're like, I know you might find this crazy, but our music is meant to be listened to forwards. Like we've invested no time in making, because who does that? But in those trials, most of the footage of it, it's the singer that's speaking on behalf of the band, and not the entire band is not always there in trial, right? So yeah, I think even as a singer, there's a line what's like, are you more famous or are you also just held more accountable for the whole output of the band?
That makes total sense.
It's interesting.
No, thank you for breaking it down like that. That really opened my eyes. Yeah, that makes total sense. If I got to keep answering questions, I have no choice but to become more famous. Like, that's one way to put it.
It's like Kanye, right? I mean, there's tons of stuff going on at his songs. There's background singers. There's guest singers. There's tons of stuff, but he's the main producer.
Yeah.
And so if anything goes awry, they're like, Kanye, we need you to explain this. And it's like, because he could be like, worship the devil, and then the singers could be like, worship the devil, but they never, they're not going to get asked
how do background singers sing.
Correct. They're not going to be like, hey, was that you or was that him? It's like, well, if your background, he was probably telling you to do it. They're the ones that are they at least get the most camera time.
I was actually, how do they sing again?
Worship the devil. They do like a falsetto version of what he does, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Them and their vocal ranges.
Yeah. Is there anything else you like to drop to talk about when it comes to how heavy metal has influenced pop culture?
I just really think that there's a lot of stuff that goes on in the human psyche, like again, depression, anxiety, uncertainty, fear. fear of acceptance, right? Like the gay community, for instance, that's a whole community that's just, not supported as much. That's actually one of the reasons that Judas Priest made such an impact, because the frontman is gay. And
Really?
he didn't come out until like 7 albums into their career, because they were afraid that it was going to lose fans, right? Because a lot of their music, it didn't inherently have like macho-ness to it, but some of it did. And so, yeah, it was like a huge controversy, but at the same time, it's like this type of music and this type of community lends itself to people who want to express themselves. Same with Queen, right? It doesn't really seem to bother many people anymore now that the guy was gay. People love to listen to the songs. But so I think that, I don't think this is the only genre, but I do think that heavy metal lends itself to people who have some of these issues, or maybe have a harder time just immediately fitting in with the society around them. And I think it's a good thing ultimately. I don't think it's, I understand how people could probably not want to listen to music about Satan. That makes sense to me, right? That's not something people want to be like, hey, did you check out the new Satan record at like Thanksgiving dinner, right? I understand that that's not going to be the case, but I do think that in order to listen to this type of stuff, I think it also lends itself to more open-minded people.
Yeah, definitely.
And it's a hard phrase to use, because it always seems insulting. It always seems like if you say open-minded, that means that I'm smarter than you. It's not like that. I think the thing is just, you're open to new experiences. You go into an ice cream shop, someone says, hey, we got pistachio ice cream today. There's 2 types of people. People have pistachio, go fuck yourself. And the other person's like, pistachio, yeah, that sounds, yeah, I'll try it out. I think those people are just kind of more open-minded, and they're willing to accept that it might not be good, right? They're willing to accept, hey, there's no loss, but we try it out.
Yeah.
So I think it's kind of the same. I think that type of persona is a lot easier sold with music like this, because they're willing to accept the reality that it might not work out.
That was truly my approach this past 4 days before you came on. That was truly my approach. I had never listened to hard metal because I thought it was screamo, and I slowly realized, oh no, this isn't the same at all.
It specifically, not to like advertise, but specifically Judas Priest also, like, regardless, a lot of it's just really exciting. A lot of it is like, you could tell a lot of those songs were designed for a giant live stadium experience for everyone to just have a good time, like very similar in the feeling of a Green Day song.
Yeah.
So I think that's one huge misconception, is that there is actually a lot of positivity there. Yeah. Like one of their most famous songs is like called Living After Midnight. And it's literally just about, going to the city, having a good time, drinking and getting wasted, which we probably shouldn't recommend that to like teenagers, but I think everyone's kind of been there once or twice. So it's just a fun party song. Very easy listening. There's just distortion on the guitar.
Yeah.
So that seems to bother a lot of people,
My last question for you. Seether, hard heavy metal or no?
In some aspects, yeah. Like I said, they have heavier stuff. They got distortion. They got amps. They got electronics. They're not necessarily screaming, but they're loud. I had always looked at them as like a harder alternative rock.
Okay.
But they're also a really unique band where, in their whole catalog, they've changed a few times. So I like bands like that. I like bands that change over time.
Oh yeah, you got to keep up with the times, yeah.
You can't keep telling the Hot Pocket joke. You gotta make new stuff, Yeah.
And Amazon will buy it.
There you go. An Amazon original.
Yes. Is there anything you'd like to say to your fans?
Hey, Mom and Dad. Yeah, no. I'm just kidding. It's just Mom.
Wow.
No, I'm just kidding again. No, I would say, yeah. So when it comes to anything that we're talking about, music, comedy, give it a chance. You might like it, and you might hate it, but it's all temporary. So who cares?
Cool. Where can they follow you?
They can come to my house. I'm in Charlotte. I'm in Steel Creek. I'm at 60. No, I'm just kidding. I'm primarily on Facebook. It's just Evan.Shitfield is the username, which I don't think you even have to use that anymore on Facebook. You just search for my name, right? Evan Pittfield. No one has like a URL anymore. I have a website, which is evanpittfield.com. It's got a nice, sexy "We'll be right back" screen on it because I'm not done working on it. I have an Instagram. I don't really want. I don't do anything on it. And then I know we're in quarantine, so I would say come to a show. But whenever the world is done ending, come out to a live show and let's hang out. Let's have a beer together. Let's enjoy our temporary time here.
Nice. But yeah, guys, make sure you check him out. Evan's a hilarious comedian. Definitely goes to his shows. And thank you again for coming on to the podcast.
I appreciate it, man. Thank you for having me. Mr. Garrick, a very successful business meeting. I will be investing in your product. So.
All right. Thank you guys for listening and have an amazing day.